Proud. All right. Kelly, I want to hear your running story. How did you get into it?
Well, I got into it through a podcast actually. So
Yes.
that was the TED Radio Hour podcast. And they
Okay.
interviewed Chris McDougall.
Oh,
So he's
yes,
the
of
author of
course.
Born to Run, of course. So I'm
Hmm.
one of those. I came in through Born to Run, but yeah, in the podcast, he wasn't talking so much about the story. He was talking about more of like the science and like the running man evolution theory and all of that. And he went
Hmm.
into detail on that science, and that really intrigued me. So
Yeah.
I went from
That.
hating running to being like, maybe actually I'm supposed to run, So yeah,
You're
that
like, let me
was that
try
was
this
it. Yeah,
out.
let me try it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not to like pretend like we know everything, but probably a lot of people haven't read Born to Run, right? A lot of people haven't, just in the world, right? And the
Yeah.
science is, and it's been a long time since I read it, right? But the science is that we evolved to run long distances, right? Like that's how
Yep.
we would hunt and whatever. And so our bodies are built to outrun our prey, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Persistence hunting and all of that, and how we were able to capture animals and hunt them without being able to like have weapons built in. Like most predatory animals will have claws and teeth, and we
Hmm.
don't. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea is like deer, buffalo, whatever we're trying to catch just basically collapses of exhaustion. And
Yeah.
that's how we get them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. 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 Good. I'm glad I remember that from the book,
Yep.
however long ago it was that I read it. Were you into other like sports or activities before hearing that?
I was a hiker. So I've
Oh,
been a
okay.
hiker my whole life. So
Hmm.
I came in from that kind of background,
Hmm.
spending time in the woods and all of that, but just through hiking, so a little bit slower.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you live in Chicago. Obviously,
Yep.
I know this about you, but are you from Chicago?
I've I'm technically from the area, not in
Okay.
the city, but I've
Yeah.
grown up in like a bunch of different suburbs.
Mhm.
I lived in Rockford for a while as well, so
Yeah. Really,
mostly
I
northern
asked because
Illinois.
I don't think Chicago and hiking.
Oh
So if you're
yeah.
telling me
Yeah,
that
yep.
you've been a hiker your whole life,
Yep.
I would imagine that I'm sure people are from the city proper and are hikers or whatever, and obviously they are, but like I was just like, oh, maybe just not exactly from here because the
Yeah.
hiking is not abundant in the area.
No, it's not. My family has a farm out further west in Illinois. So
Okay.
before that, it was like a campground. So growing up, I spent a lot of time there. So they have property
Nice.
with woods and whatnot. So
That
yeah, that was
sounds
my intro.
lovely. That sounds very lovely. Okay,
Yep.
so you heard about Born to Run. You think, okay, let me give it a try. What happens?
I told my boyfriend, I was like, I'm not ready yet, but I'm going to be ready. And at some point, I'm going to do this. So I took a couple, maybe like 2 years. I was into the pandemic at that point.
Hmm.
And then I started reading. I finally read the book. I had just listened to the podcast, but I actually
Yeah.
finally read the book. And I was like, wow, there's people who run 100 miles. Like, I
Hmm.
couldn't comprehend that. So that was my first introduction to not so much the marathon, but the ultra marathon distance.
Oh,
I
wow.
was
You
like,
like jumped
wow.
way ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, I love
So
that.
it was intriguing. And I was like, I wonder if I could do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I read the book. I read a bunch of books because I love learning about stuff first. So I
Yeah.
read all the books, did all that, got all the gear, and then I just started.
Okay, what other books did you read? I love this approach. I love this approach
Yeah.
completely. Let me read up on it, get educated before I
Yep.
even begin. Okay, so what other books did you read?
Um, I went through a bunch of memoirs, of course. I did Eat and Run, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Eat and
yeah.
Run by Scott Jurek. I did Training
Classic.
for Ultra. That was a good one.
Hmm.
That was the introduction to Moab 240. Like at this point,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, people run 100 miles, and then I'm like, people run 250 miles.
Yeah, yeah. You're
So
like,
yeah,
wait a second.
so there's got to be something to this. Like,
Yeah.
so I went through a bunch of memoirs like that, and then started to get into the sciencey books. I read Coop's book.
Hmm.
Um, there was another one at my bookshelf over
Oh, I
here.
love that. Yeah, let's reference.
Let's see. Got Running Beyond. I've got Matt Fitzgerald, 80/20 running, fixing your feet.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Oh my gosh, I love all
Yeah.
this because like Okay, so I didn't take your exact approach, right? Which like let me read everything about it, then do it. But have read more tattooed on my knuckles. So clearly that's where I'm gonna go after I discovered running in trails and ultras. But those were
Mhm.
definitely the books I first read.
Yep.
We're Born to Run, we're Scott Jurek. I have Fixing My Feet on my bookshelf right over here. Like, yeah, very, very okay. So similar bookshelves. I love that. Okay, so okay, you're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get all the gear. Where did you do your first run at? Because once again, I know
Um,
you're in the city, but where did you go?
Deer Grove.
Yes, you go
Yep.
out there so much. I see
I
it. And
used
I'm
to
like,
live
yes,
there.
somebody else loves Deer Grove.
Yep.
I love it. It's such a hidden gem in the city. Everyone goes to Palos, right? Oh,
Yeah.
go to Palos all day. Deer Grove is so lovely.
It's perfect.
It's
I
so
love it.
you got a good big outer loop, the good single track in the
Yep.
middle, and those. I mean, those are good trails, great trails.
They really are. I had my first accident out there too, so like they're not just easy trails.
No, they are
Yeah.
not. I have also taken a tumble at Deer Grove. Okay, so you're like, okay, I'm gonna go running. And you go, I love this. We just skip roads entirely. We go
Yeah.
straight to trail. I'm
Yep.
loving this journey. You go to Deer Grove, which is, it's got elevation, it's got hills, it's got everything. And you're just
Yep.
like, here I go. I'm gonna start running. And so I'm gonna guess, did you have like your nutrition, like you were ready?
I was pretty much ready, yeah, because I had
Yes.
done all the reading beforehand. So I just jumped into it. I started with intervals, and today I still use intervals. So
Hmm.
we haven't quite graduated from that yet, but yeah.
That's not even a graduation. I mean, ultras are intervals. No one's
True,
running
yeah.
the entirety. I mean, unless just the insane, like genetically blessed people
Yeah.
or whatever, running the whole thing or whatever. No, no, everyone's using intervals and ultras. Okay, so you don't graduate from them. All right, so you started learning about the pandemic. When was your first run? Like, what year was that?
I think it was 2021.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, 2021.
okay.
Yep.
And I'm gonna guess that you loved it because I mean, you're
Oh yeah.
still doing it now. You seem to love it.
Yep.
What did you love about it that just hadn't really resonated with you previously?
It's like it's the feeling of movement. I love the way the ground feels under
Hmm.
my feet. That's something I loved in hiking, and I never really got into things like biking or anything because I can't feel the ground under me. I don't know, it's
Hmm.
some kind of like if it's spiritual or something like that connection,
Yeah.
just that connection to the earth. And then
Hmm.
you get that even more through running. You get to see more stuff than you do when you're hiking because you go further, you go faster. So
Hmm.
it was all that. It was just that connection that it made
Yeah.
me feel to the earth.
I love that. And I also love that you're like, okay, this was a good investment since you'd already bought all the gear and got all the bus.
Yep.
It
No
would be
going
terrible if you
back.
got out there and be like, oh, this is awful. I hate everything. Because I mean, even yesterday, I had a group of runners at my house, and my wife is a road runner, like does actively dislikes trail
Oh
running.
no.
Right. Like and I understand why and there
Yeah.
was road runners here who were like, no, I would never run a trail, which you and I clearly can't understand because
Yeah.
it's the best kind of running that there is. But it is a thing. You could have gotten out there and been like, no, don't like
Yep.
this. Don't like, what does my wife say? She says that she's always looking out for the roots and the rocks or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
She finds that to be stressful. Whereas like road running is monotonous in a way that they enjoy. Sorry, road running. Sorry.
Yeah, it's hard being in Chicago because I can't get out to the trails every day like I used to. So yeah, I find that the night running kind of stimulates me a little bit more than it
Hmm.
is during the day to run on the road
Yeah.
in Chicago. So yeah.
I was wondering this about your journey because I've noticed that you do a lot of nighttime running and like not just like evening 5 p.m. in Chicago running, like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
running. How did that start? Or were you just kind of doing that from the beginning of your running?
I've been doing that since last year. I did
Hmm.
an overnight race. So I started training overnight. I still lived in Palatine. So I was running at 11, 12 p.m. on the roads out there. And
Hmm.
that I just loved it. I
Yeah.
love the peacefulness of it. So yeah, that translated to here. At first, I was a little nervous
Hmm.
because, coming to Chicago, I've worked in Chicago for 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm brand new, but I'm one of those people where all you hear your whole
Yes.
life
If
is
you are in
like
the suburbs of
negative.
Chicago,
Yep.
yes. That's the
So,
narrative.
but now that I've been here, it's like I love it. I love my neighborhood. It
Hmm.
feels safe. I don't feel uncomfortable running at night. You still have to be on your guard, but overall it feels no different than being out in the suburbs. So
Yeah. What race were you training for?
it was a first year race. It was called We Run the Night. So it was in Morris, Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the RD does a 5K there to like fundraise. And
Mm-hmm.
then that was the first year he was like, well, I'm just gonna run all night and then run the 5K afterwards. And he opened it up for other people to sign up. So there were like, I want to say 20, 21 of us,
Oh,
maybe.
cool. I love
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, it was fun. That was, I met some really great people there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was, I know maybe we jumped ahead, but what was your first race that you did after you got into running?
I did a long like stretch of 5Ks. So I think
Yes.
my very first race was, well, my first one was a virtual one.
Hmm.
Someone on Run Talk hosted a virtual race.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I did that. It was the Human Race for Rights. And it was, I don't know if you know Lynn's.
Mm-mm.
She's one of the runners on there, but she hosted that. So that was
Oh,
fun.
cool.
But then my first in-person race was the pumpkin run, Gordy's.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's right.
So that was fun. Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. What was your first ultra?
That was the Royal Beast in Indiana.
Oh, I
So it was
don't
a
know
12
this.
hour.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I don't know the RD very well. I think it's put on by Fun Races, but it's a whole Indiana series, but that one was fun. It was just advertised to me and it kept getting emailed to me and I'm like, okay, let me check this out. And it just sounded fun. You get to go run around the woods.
Hmm.
It was a 2 mile loop, just run around
Hmm.
the woods for 12 hours. Like, sure, let's do it.
I'm loving everything about the way your mind works already, Kelly, because usually, okay, so this is, I've interviewed a lot of people on this podcast. I've talked to a lot of people. The usual trajectory is like, you start out road running, you move to trails, and then when you move to ultras, you scoff at timed events. You think, I couldn't run a mile. Like, I mean, you've heard it. You've heard
Yep.
it. Like, it's definitely like in the world of ultras, people kind of look down on the timed event. I mean, they don't if they're not a dummy, but if they're a dummy, they look down on timed events. But like you were like, yes, this is the right type of event for me. So why did that speak to you?
Well, I went straight from 5K to 12 hours.
Yeah.
So the idea of not having a cutoff
Yeah.
was
Okay.
good because I knew, if I signed up for a 50K at that point,
Hmm.
I didn't know if I'd be able to make the cutoffs.
Hmm.
But I knew if I could just go for 12 hours, then I could do whatever distance that I could push myself to do and not have to worry about it. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the logistics of having that short looped course, you get your own aid station set up with whatever you want, and you
Hmm.
just go to the aid station every time and get what you need. And yeah, it was, for me, it was like a break from work too. I thought
Yeah.
about it like I can do a 12-hour shift at work
Hmm.
and hate my life the whole time, right? I can
Yeah.
go spend 12 hours in the woods and just love life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. So how far did you go at that first ultra?
30 miles.
Hey,
So
shit.
I ended up with like 30.6. So I was like exactly
Yeah.
half a mile short of 50K. So yeah.
Anything over the marathon is an ultra.
Yeah.
Anything that's technically the definition is anything over
Yep.
26.2 is an ultra. When you're approaching an event, I'm just curious, are you someone that like your nutrition? Like you're like I eating this amount and I have gels or whatever ratios you're doing at, you're like, this is what I'm doing every time.
I try.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was already
I'll
clicking with the
develop a
way I've seen
plan,
your
but
mind work. Like,
yeah.
okay, you're someone who's like really planning these things out.
Yep. That was
So how
my
are, oh no, go
one
ahead.
bonk there was when I forgot to grab my nutrition on one of the loops. And that was my first
Oh.
experience bonking.
Oh my God, because you had like planned it out pretty
Yep.
well before. I mean, that's the thing, you bonk because your nutrition is not great typically. Um, so you got into it by reading, you're doing the overnight. So how do you keep up with trail and ultra information now? Like what kind of media are you, ingesting or whatever, reading, I guess. Ingesting.
Podcasts a lot. I went through kind of a slew of podcasts.
Hmm.
I try to listen as much as I can now, but now that I don't commute for work, I don't have as much time.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, a lot of podcasts. Run Talk is big for me. Um,
Yes.
so I find a lot of information there, and that's one of the things I love about Run Talk is you get to see these people doing these other races, and
Hmm.
kind of shows you what it's like to run in those areas. And you see someone do that race, and you're like, I really want to do that one,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
This brings us to an interesting topic, which I think is so it's interesting to me. As someone I'm very newer to Run Talk definitely than you, but I'm enjoying it so much. But I was curious the other day about how much of a presence a lot of the big other ultra running groups and trail running and road running groups have, and they don't.
they
It's
don't.
they do not. I was like actually like really amazed of like who all really had zero presence on TikTok, because TikTok is a massive social
Yep.
media, like massive, worldwide massive, and it's not getting shut down, right? The whole if you actually go and read about it, you're like, it's not getting shut down, and they have no presence. But what it is allowed for is like this crazy authenticity on TikTok,
Hmm.
crazy, amazing of like these are real people. And yeah, there's like I'm sure some run influencers out there, whatever, but most of it is just real people just going out on their
Yep.
runs in that
Exactly.
time.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's amazing. I love it as someone who's just gotten into it. And I know that you have a really like a cool established presence on it, so you can speak to like why you like it and how you found it.
Yeah. I found it just on accident. I started using TikTok, of course, and
Yeah.
eventually the algorithm brought me to Run Talk. And
Hmm.
here we go. We start with a few, and then it just grows. And suddenly I find myself in this actual community of
Hmm.
people. And it really feels like a community. Like these people are my friends.
Hmm.
Maybe we don't know each other in real life, but some of them I actually have met in real life. And now we are friends. And it's like, I get to see what it's like to run in all these different parts of the world, not just the country, but the whole world. Like,
Hmm.
that's incredible. So I
Yeah.
stay for that. And it's like, you get the support you need. If you have
Hmm.
questions, everybody is so friendly and so helpful. There's no gatekeeping. And you get to
Hmm.
see other people on there that look like you,
Hmm.
that represent runners that you don't really see in other media. So
Yes, that's such a
that's
great point. And I find
yeah.
like obviously like I know other social media channels. I have them for CUSS running, and then I have just a marketing company, so I'm very familiar. And it is a thing where people are more apt to like leave a friendly comment or ask,
Yes.
right? Like it's just a much more conversational place, and it is a thing where people are actually going here to have a community of people, and they're going
Yep.
to show you what their training is look like or what they're struggling with on a given day, or if you're having a hard run, they'll be like everything sucks, or like we were all running in terrible weather and everyone was like this is miserable but we're all out here doing it, or
Yep.
get on a treadmill, you dummies, like it seems like real people that you're talking to in a way that I feel like is missing on most other social media platforms.
Yeah, like I've tried dipping my toes in Instagram reels, and just the comments
Hmm.
on those are so overwhelmingly negative.
Hmm.
Like, and then you go to TikTok and it's just such a positive and uplifting place. Like, sure, you're still gonna get haters,
Yeah.
but overwhelmingly it's just people supporting other people.
Yeah.
So it's great.
So obviously you don't have a treadmill behind you. Like you're an outdoor runner in throughout Chicago winter, right?
Mhm.
So how do you prepare? I mean, because we already had an Arctic blast a little early,
Yeah.
right? So do you embrace it or you just kind of like get through it?
No, I'm a cold person. I love
Yes.
it. I
Yes.
love it. It's my favorite time to hike too. The
Hmm.
colder the better.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, as long as you have the right gear. I have spikes for when it's icy. I
Hmm.
have layers on layers on layers, all kinds of layers. So
Layers.
everything, you have windbreakers, whatever. Just
Hmm.
as long as you have the right gear, you can get out there and stay comfortable. So
This is my one vice with winter running, and I'm out there, whatever it is, and I'm hoping you're going to sympathize with me because you're also wearing glasses. It's the
oh
fogging up of the glasses. And
yeah.
like I need these to see. Like I had terrible vision. I
Yeah.
so what's the point if I take them off but they're foggy? Like either way, I'm not seeing.
Either way you don't see. Yep.
And there's no way. Like I can never get my glasses right with the buff or whatever.
Yep.
That's my one vice with like I have issues with winter running but outside that I love it. But the
I have
fogging up
no
of the glass.
secrets for that.
You have no secrets. I was
No
hoping you
secrets.
might have had
Nope.
a secret.
I
Oh,
don't.
we're just both gonna suffer through it then, I guess.
Yeah.
Kelly, what are you training for right now? Life,
Um,
anything?
my oh, I have like a few races already lined up for next year. The
Yes.
big one I'm gonna do is attempt my first 100K. So I'll do that
Yes.
in August at the Badger.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So
Nice.
yeah, we'll see. And then a 50K at the Sugar Badger also in, I think that's in May.
Yeah, that's in May. I think that's like
Yeah.
third or fourth week in May.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So why the 100K? Why go that far?
I finished my last 50K at Timely and I
Hmm.
thought, I'm exhausted. I just want to go home. But I also kind of felt like I could do that for another 12 hours. Like, and that would be fun. So why not?
Why not? You're feeling
Yeah.
good. You're feeling good. So what does your training look like for the longer distances?
Right now, I haven't quite started. I'm just
Hmm.
maintaining. I'll
Yeah.
probably start in January,
Hmm.
but couple runs a week plus a long run, strength training, hopefully. If I can rebuild
Maybe
that
you're gonna
habit.
start doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no official training plan that I'm following. I'm just trying to slowly build
Hmm.
based on whatever I've read and my bookshelf here, So
Do you listen to the Some Work All Play podcast?
no, but I've heard about it.
Okay, I think you would really like. Okay, so like one, love David and Megan Roach, love them, but they're very norm core. They're very
Mhm.
much like normal hetero couple, and that oozes out a lot, which whatever. But very, very science based,
Mhm.
super science based. I don't listen to it every week. I'll probably listen to like one, but I think you would like it because they like really break down their own training, articles that have come out, studies and
Mhm.
whatever. Yeah, I think you would enjoy Some Work All Play. But my caveat is they are just the most normal people of all time. Not that that's
Yeah,
like a
I
bad, I just feel
just
like that's like
listened to
my
a
warning
podcast with
level.
him. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my first intro to him.
Yeah. I think you would enjoy that. If you're into the science based of Ultra, it's a good one. And isn't there one just called like The Science of Ultra? I've never listened to it, but I feel like that's the name of a podcast.
Probably.
We'll Google
There's
it
so many.
afterwards. We'll
There's
follow
so
up.
many. Yeah.
We'll follow up afterwards. Yeah, there are like a million running podcasts for sure. In your like research knowledge of trail and ultra, is there a like a race that you're like, oh, that's a dream race, or like a place you'd really like to go run at?
Definitely Moab.
Moab. Okay,
Yeah,
that one stuck with
definitely.
you. Why
Um,
Moab?
it was like the first one that I read about, right? And just
Hmm.
this little tidbit that I was reading in the book, and something about that race spoke to me.
Hmm.
And somewhere else I read something that was like you should only sign up for races that really speak to you because there's a reason that they're speaking to you. I don't know
Hmm.
what it is.
It's
I've
just part
never
of your
been to
journey.
Moab.
Yeah.
It just I see that race and I see the videos. I like to watch it, the live
Hmm.
stream when it's going on, and
Yes.
yeah, that's definitely a dream race.
Moab. I love that. I love
Yep.
that. Yeah. Okay. I've never run Moab. I have physically been to Moab
Yeah.
and it was really fucking hot. That's like
Yeah.
so hot. That's what I remember. But like, yeah. And that's such an interesting distance, right? Like there's
Hmm.
not a lot of, I think it's like 237 miles
Yeah, something
technically,
like that.
right? Like
Yep.
it's not 240, it's a little but like it's such a specific distance, right? And what's the time cutoff for that? Is it a week?
I think
Less,
it's a week.
it's
Yeah.
a week, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you're having to sleep, still keep going.
Yep.
The temperature fluctuations are kind of crazy, right? And you're like, yeah, that seems awesome. That
That
seems
seems
really
fun.
cool.
Yeah. Yep.
I love that. Okay, Moab 240. Interesting. I mean, I know some people that have done it and they've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
They no one's come back being like that was a miserable experience, you know. And there is like, yeah, running through what is it, the Arizona desert? That's got to be
That's gotta,
amazing.
yeah.
Wait, Utah. Where's Moab? Utah. It's not
Moab
in.
is Utah, but then you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
the Cocodona in Arizona. Like that's definitely interesting too.
And then there's the Arizona Monster now, which
Yeah.
is 300, which is
Yep.
just bonkers and crazy. Okay, I love that for you. I love that for you. Um, so far in your journey with running, what has like been some of your favorite either like training memory or like race memory?
Ooh, there've been a lot. I just anytime I get to see somewhere new.
Mm.
I think most recently when I went to Palos, when I went
Hmm.
to the Redgate Woods, that was my first
Yeah.
time there. It was it was amazing.
Hmm.
I loved it. That was definitely a highlight of training from this year.
Hmm.
Just getting to see that new the new woods, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good, I mean, clearly I'm partial. I do
Yeah.
host a race there. I'm very
Yep.
partial to Red Gatewood specifically, but it does have to be interesting for you. I mean, you're from this area to have never been there and be like,
Yeah.
how is this existing right next to me?
Yep.
Yeah, because there's people, obviously, there's Chicagoans that maybe are not as outdoorsy, or even if they are, like you're outdoorsy and you still had never been
Yep.
to Redgate Woods. You're like, okay, so what else is secretive out
It's
here?
like
What else are y'all hiding?
everything I've done is kind of west or north. Everywhere I've gone is kind of that
Hmm.
area because that's where I'm familiar with, where I'm
Yeah.
from. So going south and west is a little different. I haven't done too many of the forest preserves down there. So yeah,
Mm. Yeah, I mean that Palos Forest Preserves is massive.
it
I mean,
is.
Red Gatewoods is the best
Yeah.
section, no lie. I mean, but there's, I mean, I did a race out there in the fall as someone who hosts races there and has been running there for a long time. And I was like, I've never run on this trail before. This is lovely out here. It's so nice. Yeah, okay. I love that. I love that. Kelly, thank you so much for coming and like vibing with me and hanging out and for showing up my race. I mean, clearly I was like, oh, this person seems very interesting. I liked your approach so much. What I really love, honestly, is what you captured in that TikTok video. Was the breakdown of Craig. And Craig has been around my races for a long time. Shout out to Craig. And he always puts on like the happiest his face. He takes like a selfie every mile. But you caught his breakdown on camera of when he was feeling rough. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, he does feel miserable sometimes. And I have the video to prove it. So, I love that you captured that. But it was really cool to like see the race that way. Because what I always tell people what's coolest about it is the park like waking up, coming alive,
It
and
was
then going back to
incredible.
sleep is like,
Yeah.
and you caught that so well in that race. So thank you so much for that. I was like, you caught the magic of this race. How wonderful is that for me? Yeah, and hopefully we will see you out at
Oh
some
yeah.
of our races this year. But yeah, okay, Moab 240. You'll have to come back on after you've done Moab 240.
That's a ways away
Like
though.
like next year.
Oh boy.
I'll give you
I
a
gotta
couple years.
tackle 100K first and then hopefully 100 somewhere.
Because what is 240? How many 100Ks? That's 300Ks, right?
300K is okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Is it? I think actually it's 400Ks.
18. Yeah, yeah, it's four.
Okay, it's four. It's four.
But
Okay.
that's okay. I mean, if you go from
Quadruple.
5 to 50, then from 100K to 400Ks,
Mhm.
isn't that?
You just keep moving forward. You just keep moving forward. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Awesome, Kelly. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a great
Thank you
day.
for having me. Bye.
Oh,